place where memes are born, and dark, disturbing tales lurk just beneath the surface. Tonight, we're diving into the twisted corners of the internet, where every upvote comes with a chill, and not all stories are fiction. From encounters that defy explanation, to the shadows that creep in the night, these are the horror stories Reddit wishes were fake. I work at a small bakery in the middle of the city, and we close up at 9:30 p.m. every night. It's usually busy, so I never feel unsafe, even when it's dark outside. The streets are usually packed with people coming out of restaurants or bars, so I never thought twice about leaving alone. But last night was different. As I turned the key in the lock to close up the shop, I noticed a guy walking past me. He was smoking a cigarette, wearing a hoodie pulled down low over his face. His build made it obvious that he was a man, but I couldn't really see his face. I did not think much of it at the time. Like I said, it's usually a busy street, and seeing someone out there wasn't anything unusual. I finished locking up and started heading towards my car, which was parked about a block away. I could see it from the bakery door, so it did not seem like a big deal. As I walked, I noticed the guy was heading in the same direction, toward the intersection where the pedestrian crosswalks were. We were the only two people in the street, which was weird for this part of town. Normally there are at least a few people walking around, but it was dead empty. I thought about crossing the street just to avoid that awkward situation where you're walking right behind someone. I did not want to make him feel uncomfortable. So without using the crosswalk, I cut across the street, thinking that I'd give him some space. But then he crossed right after me. That's when I started to feel uneasy. I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe he lived nearby, or was just walking the same way. Still, my instincts kicked in, and I decided to change my pace. I started walking faster, and almost immediately, I heard his footsteps speed up from behind me. I did not look back, but I could feel him keeping pace with me, step for step. At this point, all I could think about was getting to my car. It was like tunnel vision. The only thing in my head was, get to the car, get to the car, get to the car. I picked up my speed, practically running by now. I could see my car ahead of me, so close, and I felt a wave of relief, but also panicked because I knew he was still behind me. I reached my car and grabbed the driver's side door handle, fumbling with my keys like I was in a bad horror movie. I unlocked it, and everything felt like it was happening in slow motion. I could hear him right behind me, and as I threw myself into the driver's seat, I saw him round the back of my car and come straight to the passenger side. My heart was pounding so hard, I thought I was going to throw up. I slammed my door shut and hit the lock button just as he reached for the passenger door handle. My hand was shaking so badly I wasn't even sure if I hit the lock button in time. But I did. I saw his hand reach for the handle, then pull back when it did not open. Then something really freaked me out. He just stopped, like nothing had happened. He pulled his hand back, stood there for a second, and then started walking away, back down the street. It was like the whole thing had not just happened. He didn't say anything, didn't try the handle again, just walked away casually, like he decided against whatever he was going to do. I sat there in shock, watching him walk around the corner until I couldn't see him anymore. My hands were still shaking, and I couldn't even think straight. I just sat there for a few minutes, trying to process what had just happened. I drove home, still feeling like I was in some sort of daze. I kept checking my mirrors the whole way, paranoid that he might be following me. I did not sleep much that night. This morning I went out and bought pepper spray. I don't know what his deal was, but I'm not taking any chances. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't locked the door in time. and I don't want to find out. Be safe out there. When I was 6 years old, my family lived on a big piece of property in North Carolina. We had about 10 acres, and most of it was surrounded by thick woods. Our house sat near the front of the property, and a barn was out back, closer to the trees. I spent a lot of time outside back then, especially around the barn, even though my parents always warned me not to wander too far. It was early fall, and I remember the air being cooler than usual. The sun was just starting to set, and my mom had called me to come in for dinner. I could hear her voice faintly from the front porch, but for some reason I did not go right away. I was just wandering around near the barn, kicking rocks and watching the sky darken. That's when I saw them. At the edge of the woods, where the trees started to get dense, 3 figures were standing there. They were wearing long white robes, almost like bed sheets, but heavier. They did not move at first, just stood there, watching me. The weirdest part was their faces. They were wearing these strange masks, bright orange, metallic looking, with no expression, just smooth and shiny. I don't know why, but I wasn't that scared. Maybe because I was so young, and the full weight of what I was seeing did not hit me right away. They weren't like monsters or anything out of a movie. They were just strange, almost like they were waiting for something. One of them raised their arm slowly and motioned for me to come closer, like they were inviting me over. At the time, I did not think much about this. I figured they wanted to play or show me something, and like any curious kid, I took a few steps towards them. The whole time, my mom was still yelling for me, but her voice sounded far away. I barely paid attention. I just kept walking towards these figures, drawn to them for reasons I did not really understand. I remember the grass under my feet felt damp, the sun was nearly gone, and I was only a few feet away from them. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears, but I wasn't scared. Not yet. Just as I was about to reach out, one of them moved like they were stepping forward to meet me. And then, out of nowhere, I felt a strong grip yank me from behind. It was my dad. He had come out looking for me when he heard my mom yelling, and when he saw me so close to those figures, he ran. I did not even hear him running. He grabbed me so fast, I barely had time to react before he spun around and started shouting at the figures. He wasn't just angry, he was terrified. I could hear it in his voice. He yelled at them, but I can't remember exactly what he said. I just remember the sound of it, how desperate it was. The figures did not say anything. They just turned and ran back into the woods, disappearing into the trees like they were never even there. My dad carried me back into the house, not saying a word, just holding on to me tight. I've never seen him that freaked out, not before or since. For the next few days, I was not allowed outside. My parents forbid me to go anywhere near the barn or the trees. Then, about a week later, we heard on the news that 2 girls from a town nearby had gone missing. They were last seen playing near the woods, and no one had any idea what happened to them. My parents were really quiet when they heard about this. I think they knew, deep down, that it was connected to what happened that night by the barn. My dad had already gone to the police with my incident, and he went again when he heard about the disappearances. To this day, I have no idea who those people were or what they wanted. I haven't heard anything about anyone being caught or those 2 girls being found. But I still think about it sometimes, especially when I hear stories about people going missing in the woods. I was so close to being one of them. This happened 2 years ago when we were juniors in high school. There's these back roads in our town that we'd driven down 100 times before. It was late, like 2 a.m. on a Friday, and we were doing what we always do, just driving fast and smoking cigarettes. There's a stretch of road near the military base that's perfect for it. Windy roads, woods on both sides. The kind of place where it feels like no one's around for miles, and hardly any cops come out here. It started off normal. We were cruising, music turned up, windows cracked just a little so the smoke did not stick. My buddy Mike was driving, and he liked to push the car, especially when we were on these roads. We knew them like the back of our hands. But then, out of nowhere, something hit us. It was like a giant branch or something had been thrown at the car. I mean, it wasn't just lying there in the road. This thing came flying out to the woods. The sound was so loud, we thought the windshield had shattered. Mike slammed on the brakes, and we just sat there in the middle of the road, decompressing. "What the hell was that?" I asked, looking out the windows into the dark woods. No one answered at first. We were all just staring at each other, thankful to be alive and not upside down in some ditch. Finally, Mike broke the silence. Someone threw that branch at us from the fucking woods. We all piled out to check the damage. Sure enough, there was this massive branch, like 10 feet long, lying on the side of the road. Mike's car had this huge dent on the driver's side door, with paint chipped all over. We were freaked out. We figured at this hour in the night, it had to have been some stupid kids hiding in the woods and messing with us. We tried to pick up the branch to move it out of the way, but it was so damn heavy that it took all 4 of us to lift it. That's when I started thinking, if kids did throw this, how did they have the strength to do it? The branch weighed like 200 pounds. And I was explaining this to the rest of my friends when we started hearing noises. They were coming from the trees, like footsteps, fast ones, but they were just far enough into the woods that we couldn't see anything. "Hey, who's out there?" Mike yelled into the trees. He was pissed and more from stress than anything else. But there was no answer, just more shuffling. I turned on my phone light and shined it into the woods, trying to catch someone in the act. The others did the same. We were all waving our lights around, trying to find whoever was messing with us. Then I saw something. Just past a clearing, behind some bushes, I caught a glimpse of something pale and gray, like skin. I froze for a second, thinking maybe it was an animal. But then I saw its face. It wasn't human. It had these huge, dark eyes and this wide, almost stretched out mouth. It looked at me for a second, and then it darted behind a tree. But before it disappeared, I swear I heard it laugh. Not a deep, guttural laugh either. It was high-pitched, almost like a cackle you would hear a witch make. I can still hear it in my head, even now. "Dude, what the hell was that?" I shouted, backing up towards the car. My friend saw it too, or at least enough of it to know something wasn't right. We did not stick around to figure out what it was. We bolted back to the car, not even bothering to move the branch. Mike got in and gunned it, speeding down the road faster than I've ever seen him drive. As we sped down the road, in the faint red light from the taillights, I saw that thing now standing in the middle of the road behind us, just watching us drive off. We were too freaked out to even think straight, and we drove straight home. The next day, we had to deal with the damage to Mike's car. It cost a ton to fix, but honestly, we're just glad that's all we had to deal with. Whatever was out in those woods, it wasn't normal, and it sure as hell wasn't some kids playing a prank. We haven't been back to those roads since. We used to go there all the time, but after that night, Never again. You couldn't pay me enough to go back out there. Not after what we saw. So this happened a few months ago, and to this day, I still get chills thinking about it. My buddy and I had just gotten off of work on a Friday night. It was one of those long shifts where everything feels like it's dragging, and we both just wanted to chill and unwind. We had a blunt rolled up, and we figured we'd smoke it behind the old community center near our job. It's a pretty dead spot. No one ever really goes there, and it seemed like the perfect place to just relax. We finished up the blunt, feeling pretty good, and decided to go for a walk. There's a park not too far from the community center, just down the block, and since we did not have work the next day, we figured, why not? By this point, it was starting to get dark, but we didn't care. We were high, the night was chill, and we weren't in any rush to get home. We walk into the park and pass by the swing sets. Everything's kind of quiet, but that's normal for this time of night. Out of nowhere, my friend goes, "Oh shit, what's that?" and starts pointing to the edge of the park by some trees. I didn't see anything at first, and thought he was just messing with me, or maybe the weed was hitting him a little too hard. I asked him what he was talking about, but he just kept pointing, his eyes wide. He looked legit freaked out. He said he saw something, like a clown or something, and I laughed at him. I figured it was the weed making him paranoid, or maybe he was just seeing things in the dark. But he didn't stop. He was dead serious, pointing at the same spot. To humor him, I squinted and tried to see if there was anything by the trees. That's when I saw it. This clown jumps out from behind a tree. I'm not talking about some goofy birthday party clown either. This dude was creepy as hell. His makeup was smeared, and he had this dirty, tattered costume on. And the worst part, he started sprinting straight at us. Now, when I say we booked it, I mean we booked it. I don't think I've ever ran that fast in my life. My heart was pounding, and I could hear this clown's oversized shoes slapping the pavement behind us. The guy was yelling something too, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. We were just trying to get the hell out of there. We sprinted back toward the community center where we had parked the car. The whole time, I could hear this clown getting closer and closer, and I honestly thought we weren't going to make it. When we got to the car, we were both fumbling with the doors. My friend finally managed to get it unlocked, and we both dove in. He started the car, but by this point, the clown was maybe 30 yards behind us, still running full speed. As we pulled out, the clown got so close that he actually slammed his hand against the driver's side door. We did not stop to check on him or anything. We just floored it out of there. My heart was still racing the entire way home. When we finally calmed down, all we could do was thank God that nothing worse happened. Like, our entire night went from 0 to 1,000 in a heartbeat. Needless to say, we never went back to that park, and we definitely never smoked behind that community center again. The whole thing was straight out of a nightmare. And I don't care if people think we're just paranoid or imagining things, but I swear to you, that clown was real, and it was one of the most scariest moments of my life. A buddy and I were camping in the backwoods of the Pennsylvania mountains, pretty far from anyone. It was the middle of the week, so we were alone, which was how we wanted it. The nearest town is this tiny place with maybe 600 people, and that's about an hour away. We set up camp around 7 p.m. and got a decent fire going, and just cooking hot dogs, snacking on Cheetos, and relaxing. Everything felt pretty normal. Around the time it started getting dark, we were sitting around the fire, talking when we heard something. At first it was distant, like branches breaking up on the mountain behind us. It sounded like something was walking through the brush, stepping on bushes or sticks. We immediately stopped talking, and whatever it was, it stopped too. The quiet that followed was unsettling. There was no wind, no animals, just dead silence. We exchanged looks, but neither of us said anything. I mean, we had guns with us, planning to do some target shooting the next day, and the fire was big, so we felt relatively safe. After a minute or two, we started talking again, trying to shake off the weirdness. That's when we heard it again, only this time it was closer. The same crunch of twigs and rustling leaves, like something or someone was making its way down the mountain toward us. Once again, we went silent, and once again, whatever it was stopped too. I can't explain how eerie this was. The fact that it stopped when we did made it feel like whatever was out there was listening to us. We stayed quiet for a good while, staring into the dark where the sound had come from, but nothing moved. Eventually, we convinced ourselves it was probably a deer or something, and we started talking again. But no sooner had we started back up when the rustling noise returned, closer this time. We stopped, and so did it. This happened 2 more times. We'd talk, it would move closer. We'd go silent, it would stop. At this point, we were both on edge. It felt like we were being stalked. But what could it be? Bears don't act like that. Most animals would have either run off or charged by now. And the fact it seemed to react to our voices was seriously messing with us. Finally, we heard it again, now only about 200 feet away. Whatever it was just outside the firelight, hiding in the darkness. I wasn't about to wait and find out what it was, so I got up, went to the truck, and grabbed my rifle. I walked the edge of the camp and put a shot into the air. The gunshot echoed through the trees. For a second, nothing happened. Then, all of a sudden, whatever was out there bolted up the mountain. And when I say bolted, I mean it moved fast. Way too fast for a human. It was crashing through the underbrush like something massive, but the speed was unreal. It must have covered about 400 feet in under 30 seconds, and that was uphill in thick forest. There's no way it was a deer or bear. It moved like it knew exactly where it was going, even though it was pitch black. We sat there for a while, staring into the darkness, but it did not come back. Neither of us could explain it. It wasn't just the noise or the speed that freaked us out. It was the way it stopped when we stopped talking. Like it was listening. Like it was waiting. We packed up early the next morning and left. Neither of us has been back since, and honestly, I don't plan on it. Whatever was out there that night, it wasn't something I want to meet again. I grew up in a funeral home. My family ran it, and from a young age, I helped out with various tasks, mostly in the office. It sounds weird to some people, but it was just normal life to me. Death was always around, but it did not scare me. I was used to it. When I was about 15, though, something happened that changed the way I saw the world forever. One evening, we got a call from a man whose wife and infant child had been murdered. The details were brutal. Both of them killed in cold blood at their home. The whole situation was horrifying, but what made it worse was that there were barely any clues. The cops didn't have much to go on. The case made headlines around town, and people were talking about it nonstop. Everyone wanted to know who could do such a thing. When the time came for the funeral, the cops actually set up surveillance at the viewing. They thought the killer might show up, or maybe something suspicious would happen. It was heartbreaking to see the mother lying in the casket next to the baby's casket. The whole room felt heavy, like the grief of it all just sat in the air. I remember thinking how unfair it was that 2 lives could just be taken like that. My job was to take the flower cards, the ones that came with the arrangements people sent, and show them to the husband periodically. The idea was to see if he recognized any of the names, in case there was something off. After he looked at them, I'd photocopy the cards and then put them back where they belonged. I guess they asked me to do this because I was a kid, and people around town knew me. I was just a quiet presence, not someone who stood out. I talked to the husband quite a bit during that time. He seemed completely wrecked, which made sense. His whole family had been ripped away from him in the most violent way possible. He was shaky, teary-eyed, and barely holding it together. I felt for him, even though I did not know what to say most of the time. What do you even say to someone in that situation? The cops eventually told us that they had a witness, a 3-year-old girl who lived nearby. She had seen someone leaving the house the day of the murder. A 3-year-old isn't much of a witness, but apparently, she recognized the man. She said it was the husband's best friend. That's when the whole thing got really twisted. Turns out, the husband and his best friend had made a pact to kill each other's families. They both wanted to run off with their secretaries, leaving their lives behind. It was supposed to be a clean break, and no one was ever supposed to know. But the 3-year-old girl saw the friend leaving the house after the murder, and once she identified him, things started to unravel. I guess one of them cracked under pressure, or maybe the cops just managed to piece it together after that. Either way, both the husband and his friend ended up going to jail on multiple counts. All of this was based on the testimony of a little kid. Just thinking about it now makes me shiver. What really messes with my head is how close I was to that man. I stood beside him, handed him flower cards, made small talk while he looked over caskets, holding his wife and baby. I had no clue. No idea that the person I was helping, the man who seemed so shattered, had planned the whole thing. It still blows my mind that he could act like that someone could carry such guilt and still keep it together enough to talk to people, to stand there and to pretend to grieve. I don't think I ever looked at people the same way after that. It's one of those things that stays with you, that makes you question everything. How many people do we interact with who have secrets like that, who are capable of such things that we can't even imagine? I'll never know. But I do know that after that funeral, nothing ever felt quite as safe or as normal as it used to. It was around 2 a.m. when I woke up. At first, I did not know why. The house was dead quiet, but something felt off. Then I heard my dog, Charlie, growling low and deep from the foot of my bed. He had never done that before. Charlie wasn't a big dog, just a little mutt I'd rescued a few years back. But right then, he sounded more like a guard dog than a pet. Living alone in a small ranch-style house, I had gotten used to the creaks and groans of the place, especially at night. But something about the way Charlie was acting made me sit up, fully alert. I got out of bed and grabbed my phone, turning on my flashlight. I could feel the adrenaline start to pump, but I tried to remain calm. Maybe he just heard a raccoon or something outside. I walked out to the living room, keeping the flashlight beam low, trying not to freak myself out. Everything looked normal. The door was shut, the TV was off, nothing was out of place. I decided to check the locks on the windows and doors, just to be safe. The front door was locked, deadbolt and all. The first window I checked was secure. I let out a little sigh of relief, thinking Charlie had just overreacted. Then I went to the second window. The moment I lifted the mini blind, my blood turned to ice. The window was wide open, and standing right there, no more than a foot away from me, was a guy in a ski mask. His eyes locked onto mine. Then he laughed and said, "Party time." And then he started climbing through the window. I screamed without thinking, stumbling backward. I yelled, "I have a gun," even though I didn't. I wasn't prepared for this. I had never been prepared for anything like this, but I had to bluff. Charlie went ballistic. He barked and growled like I'd never heard before. For a split second, the guy hesitated. Maybe he thought I was bluffing, but the noise from Charlie threw him off. He looked at the dog, then back at me. Suddenly, he jumped back out of the window and took off. I stood there crying. When the nerves wore off, I managed to shut the window and lock it, double-checking everything else in the house like a maniac. I called the police after I calmed down a little, but they did not find anyone. They said he was probably long gone by the time they arrived. They took my statement and did a quick sweep of the yard, but there was nothing more to be done. The next day, I went out and bought a gun. I took lessons, practiced at the range, and kept it loaded by my bed from that point on. I'll never forget the way the guy laughed, or the feeling of helplessness when I realized how vulnerable I was. If Charlie had not warned me, if he hadn't started growling when he did, I don't know what would have happened. I can't even think about it. Hey, what's up guys? It's Spooky. If you've made it this far, congratulations, you survived. If you did not know, I have an Instagram. Follow me on there so we can connect. I also have a Patreon. On there, you'll have direct access to me and can see the upcoming videos, polls, and soon-to-be exclusive stories only shared on there. If that's something that interests you, please consider joining. That's all I have for you guys tonight. Stay spooky, and I'll see you in the next video.